Next Sunday, we have Pluto finally ascending into the sign of Aquarius. And in today's show, what I'm going to do is to take you through what Pluto could actually mean as it moves through each of the 12 astrological houses in the natal chart. So it's a significant shift. If you missed my previous deep dive into actually what Pluto means in Aquarius, that was about 3 weeks ago. Go and check out my back catalogue. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Bybreen Samuels, and I help baby boomers reinvent themselves psychologically, practically, and technically so they can thrive in their third act of life. So here we have it, this major transition. And today, I want to, as I say, give you a slither of the meaning of Pluto. There are so many meanings. And so, therefore, I'm just giving you this slither in terms of what it could mean. But before I do that, what I want to kind of highlight is a mythological story around Pluto and in particular Scorpio, because it's the modern ruler of Scorpio and it's co-ruled with Mars. And so when we think of Pluto, Pluto is here for our transformational teaching, learning, and depth of understanding that then moves to transformation. So when we think about Pluto and Scorpio in particular, now the kind of imagery that surrounded it, we can think of the scorpion or the snake, these reptiles that can actually shed their skin, particularly the snake. Now, each and every one of us has this snake-like quality in one form or another until we're able to ascend in ourselves, and that's through our own transformation. So I want to share the myth of the scorpion and the frog. So one day, Scorpion's chilling by the lake and sees a frog and thinks to itself, I want to cross the lake, but I want the frog to actually give me a piggyback. So the scorpion approaches the frog and says, Frog, can you take me across the lake? The frog looks kind of hesitantly and thinks, okay, but please don't sting me. So, okay, the scorpion gets on the back of the frog and they start to cross the lake. Halfway across, the scorpion stings the frog. And before they descend to the bottom of the lake, the frog says, why did you sting me? And the scorpion said, because I felt like it. And so where we have Pluto, and obviously being the ruler of Scorpio, although it is moving into an air sign of Aquarius, Pluto is challenging us as to where is it that we always show up with that energy just because I felt like it, because it's pointing to where we are stuck in our very unconscious ways of being that haven't allowed us to expand fully into who we are. Pluto also is shining a light on what makes us up. What are we comprised of? Now, there are scripts, there are talents and skills and environments and knowledge and wisdom and family and environments that have shaped our personal identities and philosophies and beliefs and religions. But what Pluto is saying, be that as it may, there's more to you, there's more to each and every one of us beyond this sense of the things that we think we know, because we are far more expansive in who we could be. So I want you to bear that in mind as you're thinking about what Pluto could mean to you. On top of that, whenever Pluto moves into a sign and in a house, and particularly if there are planets in the houses, when Pluto moves into that area, Pluto is equally shining a light on where we have stuck energy, where we continue to do the things because we've always done it. Now, Pluto has a very long cycle, 248 years. And so when Pluto comes back home, Pluto is shining the light to say this energy in this house, let's say that, you've got the sun in Aquarius, or you have, Jupiter in Aquarius or Mars in Aquarius. But wherever you have a planet in the house and the sign that Pluto is moving into, this is indicative that you are stuck in old energy. And Pluto coming into that area is forcing you to change. Now, where you are unconscious, the change will be brought by external environments, including the people around you. And so Pluto is a wonderful opportunity for each and every one of us to become cognizant of who we are and who we're being and how we're able to move beyond this. Well, this is just the way that I am, the way that one can show up in a way. Well, it's like take it or leave it. Well, actually, conscious people leave the things that no longer serve them. And Pluto is giving each and every one of us an aperture through which to look at our lives. All right. So that's a bit of the kind of context to Pluto moving through the astrological houses. So the first house. The first house is the house of I. The first house is the lens through which you look through the world and the way that you want the world to receive you. Now, with this house of I, Pluto coming into the first house, going over the ascendant, is saying, now is the time to bring a fresher lens through to how you express yourself, how you want to express yourself to the world, and how you want the world to then receive you. And also, what Pluto is doing here is Pluto is saying, forget the days of this silly superficiality that you've been able to kind of skate through life on. Actually, with me coming through, the Lord of the Underground is coming through the underworld. He comes through and he is wanting you to plunge into your underworld, that place of your fears, your anxieties, your idiosyncrasies, the lies, the betrayals, your jealousies. It wants you to dive into that, because by diving into that, Pluto invites you to live a far more expansive life. It's about, well, if I don't do this for me, then I'm going to be met by and with something external to you that's going to force you. Now, sometimes, well, a lot of the times, when we're dealing with Pluto, when we remain deaf, where we continue to remain small and we shrink into ourselves, and then therefore the lessons can be brutal, because it's about awakening up. It's about a reawakening so that you can grow in strength and power, because Pluto is about the use and misuse of power. And as it's crossing your ascendant and the house of I, what's your relationship with power? So that's some more contextual information when it comes to Pluto. Now, when we move into the second house, Pluto into the second house, Pluto here is inviting you to think about, well, it's the house of money and resources and values, and the things that make you up. It's another area of what could you be, who could you become if you were separated from this external identity of how you make money in the world. How do you gather your resources? Because here Pluto is also pointing the finger at, if you're always associated with the thing that you do, what would happen if the thing that you do disappears? Then does that mean you disappear? Essentially, yes, if you choose to be unconscious and remain that way, or no, because you recognize that there's other things to you. So I've just gone through Pluto that had gone through my second house, because Pluto is just coming to the end of Capricorn. And Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008. And in 2008, we had this shift in the world around the economic downturn that went on for years. And I had just got back from China. And so it's 2007, 8, and the world imploded. And so, my journey through Pluto has been a very delicious journey, because I'm somebody who's quite introspective anyway. But the journey of Pluto is stripped of the identity of the thing that you do. When I was very immersed in the world of the nonprofits and had started working around the baby boomer issue. But what was fantastic was a deeper dive into my values, my intrinsic set of values. And so for me, my decision making in anything that I do in the world is really simple because it's predicated on a set of values. And so Pluto going through your second house is going to force you to identify, to anchor, to live with, live by, live through your values because they are meaningful to you. And it's about excavating what they could be. Very, very powerful. And also, Pluto is about how you can either lose income, which is something I certainly did experience, or there could be fluctuations in income, or there could be an abundance of income. So when we're dealing with this second house, Pluto is saying, dive deep and mine the pearls. And these pearls are going to aid you with your sense of wisdom, your sense of integration about who you are as a person, and then how you take that out into the world. So, second house, money, resources, excuse me, and money, resources, and values. Very, very important. Now, as us as baby boomers, who were born anywhere from 1946 to 1964, there are going to be some baby boomers who will be meeting their opposition of their own Pluto opposition. Yes, there's a 20-year window between now and 2044. So this is a really pivotal time. Because if you're a baby boomer who is, deeper into their 60s and into their early 70s and beyond, but we're looking at the range of baby boomers, then you are going to have some of us, not me, I'm a Pluto in Virgo, but some of us do actually have Pluto in Leo. So Pluto is now moving into Aquarius. So there's going to be this opposition. This is poignant and powerful because where you have an opposition, the opposition is saying, how deeply do you know yourself and how deeply have you engaged and integrated this sense of power in your life? Have you misused it? Pluto in Leo, the unconscious side is an arrogance and overpowering. And so when it's moving into Aquarius, it's about how have you balanced, or are you still imbalanced around how you use power? So the Pluto going through the second house, where are your values anchored and situated around power, for example? Something for you to dive into. Pluto moving into the third house. Here, it's the invitation for you to kind of study your mind. How knowledgeable are you? Now, it's not the fleetingness of Geminian knowledge, which can be surface or gathering lots of different pieces of information to make up something. Pluto in the third house, which is associated with Mercury, excuse me, is asking for an inquiry deeper into your knowledge set. Here is the opportunity to demonstrate your chops around your expertise, subject matter expertise, for example, or, you have a love of a particular subject or topic. Pluto in the third house is asking you to dive into a personal inquiry. And in that personal inquiry around that subject, given that it's moving into Aquarius, how could that then benefit the collective? But here it's very much about how are how are you exercising your mental matter, your brain power in a way that can serve humanity, but not dominate and browbeat other people. Very significant. Then we have Pluto moving into the fourth house, which is going across the IC. So there's a sense of introspection because it's at the bottom of the chart. It's the place of home. It's the place where we come back to. It's the birthplace. It's the birthplace of self. It's the birthplace of family. It's the birthplace of ancestry. Now, when Pluto is crossing the MC, it's asking of you, it's time to pull in. And it's time now to make sense of the journey that you've traveled in your life and how that connects to your family, your immediate family, your ancestral family, your who were your early child carers, because there's an element of childhood and we've grown through that. Pluto into the fourth house is very internal. Think about the moon in Cancer, it rules the fourth house, and it also is an inquiry back into the past. You know, what's the emotional historical context to who you are now, and does and how has that historical context illuminated your life or shrunk your life? And whichever way, you get the chance now under this transit to really unfurl it all and then to repackage it or completely erase it. And because you've grown in your years by, obviously your years and decades on this planet, but you've also made sense of what does this all mean, and where and how do I situate myself in the world of my family, the family history, and is there something that still holds me back, which stops me, impedes me from flowering into myself? Pluto in the fourth house. Pluto in the fifth house is entering the house of creativity, self expression, fun, and romance, which is great. Pluto here is saying, okay, and it's also connected to childhood. It's time for you to express and be the person you fully know you could be, and you're open to being surprised and engaged with this new identity. However, what it's also pointing to is what are the psychological blockages that have interrupted your flow of creativity? You want to be this really creative person. You've got all of these ideas, and there's this creative self expression that's kind of bubbling under the surface, but there's something, it's like you're putting up barriers or you feel boundaried in some way. So, Pluto going through the fifth house is asking you, you know, where are those psychological blockages that prevent you from flourishing in a creative way? Now, that could be creativity, it could be in your hobbies, it could be the way that, you relate to your children, your grandchildren, it could be about, the expression of love and romance, wanting to step into a new relationship, but there's a psychological blockage here. That's what it's inviting you to do. Now, psychological blockages have happened over your lifetime. Now, if you haven't dealt with them, then they just get stacked one on top of the other. And psychological blockages can come from what we fear, what we've been embarrassed about, ashamed about. We're still holding on to those feelings of feeling not enough. Pluto in the fifth house here is saying, okay, you've lived this way for X period of time. Now is the time to unpack all of that and to remove the shame so that you can begin to flourish in ways that's meaningful to you as you continue to flow through your third act of life, and obviously for other generations. But it is about, where are those areas of shame that you still are buying into or still feed you in some way that kind of gets in the way. So it kind of interrupts your flow. Pluto in the sixth house is, we're looking at your daily routines. Are you bored by them? How bored are you by your daily life and routines? How bored are you by your work, for example? And if you are, why do you remain in doing those things that don't bring you any joy, or doing work that really doesn't fuel you or feed you in a particular way. It could also be about health. And here, Pluto in the sixth house is shining the light on where are the imbalances in your world of work? Where are the imbalances where you are always just on this monotonous, hamster wheel of doing the thing that you do? Where are you experiencing imbalances in the mind body connection or disconnection? Where is that showing up? How is that showing up in your body? And why, if you are conscious about the mind body connection and just doing the pedantic thing, Pluto now wants you to break free of that. And it wants you to break free by gaining another level of balance. So it's about tipping or rebalancing. It sounds very Libran, but it's about rebalancing the scales. Pluto is showing you where the imbalance is, and it's inviting you to dive deep into those practices, those day-to-day things that you're bored by and don't really enhance your life or you feel constrained by. Same thing applies with your work, and same thing applies with your health. Pluto in the seventh, powerful position. Because if we think about the premise of Pluto, its use and misuse of power and how that can be regenerative, but also destructive in the realm, the world of relationships. Your relationships, your personal relationships, your intimate relationships, your, committed relationships, and be that the intimate ones as well as business relationships and close friendships, they're going to be challenged because Pluto is saying, stop lying, stop hiding, stop pretending. I mean, Pluto says that for every single house that it goes through. But when we are face to face in those types of relationships, which millions and billions of people are in, they're in relationships where if they were to truly look across at their partner, they'd be thinking, what am I doing with you? Pluto is going to bring that question to the surface. It's going to indicate, where am I unhappy in my relationship, my close relationship? Where have I been pretending that everything is okay when it really isn't? Where have I kind of snuck away from the articulation of what it really means to be in a relationship because you've done it for X period of time, years, decades? Pluto is going to challenge you in your understanding of relationships and the understanding of your own intimate relationship or those close relationships I've just indicated, for you to dive in to find the truth of what all of that means, and then working either to transform it because you value it in a way that's very meaningful to the two of you, or the transformation comes because you're no longer prepared to put up with it, lie about it, and you just feel it's time for you to be the phoenix. But you can't just become the phoenix. You have to excavate and build the phoenix, build yourself into becoming the phoenix. Pluto in the seventh loves that. It's a direct challenge. What is this relationship really about? What are these partnerships that I have? Where is the truth in the partnerships that I have? Is there equity in the partnerships that I have, the business partnerships, the working partnerships, the joint ventures? Where does the power lie? And with Pluto in Aquarius, it's about the sharing of that power. How could it be shared equitably? Pluto in the eighth, excuse my slightly still blocked nose, but Pluto in the eighth is still dealing with relationships, but this time Pluto in the eighth is lifting the lid, and it's about the intimacy that exists in relationships. Because the seventh house is the house of marriage and relationships, and the eighth house is the house of intimacy, sex, psychological development, warfare, as well as money, resources. So Pluto in the eighth house which is its natural house, and it's the house of Scorpio, there is no hiding. There truly is no hiding. Now, where Pluto enters this eighth house, it could be about the psychological deconstruction that has led to the lies within the relationship of the other's resources or money or value, or this marriage, this long-term relationship, this sexual partner. Where's the lie? Where are you hiding? Because Pluto here is about the psychological. What are the thoughts behind all of this? And it's about the breaking down of all of that for the rebirth of intimacy, for the rebirth of sharing of resources. Also, there could be a change of fortune, for better or worse. So, for worse, you could lose, or your partner might lose, you know, wealth, a fortune, etc. And then the converse of that is that you could be the recipient of an inheritance. You could be bequeathed something. You might come into a windfall of money and resources that will truly transform your life. Now, when we're dealing with the eighth house, it's the house of we. And so the challenge comes from, how do I move from the I in me to the we in us that elevates both of us? But before we can elevate, we need to unearth where are the gems that lie within this union of resources, values, money, income, and the psychological framework that underpins who you are in your intimate relationships. Who are you behind the scenes? Time to stop hiding. Pluto in the ninth house is here to challenge you to rethink the philosophies, the religions or points of view that you literally have built your life on. You've ascribed to a particular faith, religion, a group, a guru, somebody or a practice that has led to maybe a meditative aspect to who you are. There's a point of view or a philosophy that you've bought into over the years. Now, when Pluto is entering the ninth house, Pluto is saying, well, how true is all of that? And do you still believe it? Or you might find that your interest in that begins to wane in a way, or something externally comes to you and it's like, I'm not quite sure whether I still believe that or not. Where you are wavering, then you're moving with the conscious energies of Pluto in the ninth house to kind of explore, because whatever philosophies that we are living our life by, what Pluto is trying to show is there's more to life than that one philosophy or that one ideal. And it reminds me when I did my master's in analytical psychology, and I had a supervisor, and let's just say it wasn't the best of relationships. And one of the things that I resisted so much was this notion that there's only one way to look at the world. And I did a Jungian analytic perspective, and I resisted that strongly. Let's put it like that. But it is about there's only one worldview. Well, we know that's not true. And Pluto going through the ninth house, which is also about the higher mind and higher education and study, is forcing, if you resist, you to think about the spectrum of views that shape us, and to be tied to one particular thing that you may have outgrown, outlived, will undermine you as you continue to move through your third act of life or any other acts. So here it's the deep dive into, do you still believe that philosophy that you have practiced for X period of time? If you do, why? Why does it still hold value in your life? Pluto encourages you to rethink that. And are there other ways of being? And in those other ways of being, can you be elevated? Will they enable you to be the phoenix that rises? But you can't just transfer one for the other. It is about, do you understand the depth of that subject matter, that philosophy, that practice, that religion? And have you outgrown it? Pluto in the ninth house. Also, you could be really opened up because of travel. You might find, actually, as a baby boomer who's looking to travel even more extensively, i.e., like myself, travel is very central to who I am. But you may be somebody, for example, who's thinking of relocating. You're somebody who wants to take on an extended period of travel or be location independent. And in that, you are exploring different people, different cultures. You're being informed by the environment around you. You might decide, let's say that the North Node is in your ninth house and Pluto is there. Pluto is saying you've got to allow your North Node imaginations that will enable you to grow into an even more sumptuous version of who you are. Step out into the world, because there could be a whole host of things that are there to benefit your life. Pluto in the 10th house is entering the house of career, is entering the public face of you in the world. Now, you could be challenged with, really, how do you use your power in the world of work? Excuse me. Mhm. Mm. Excuse me. How do you use your power in the world of work? It could be a time when you lose, you're made redundant or you're forced into early retirement, or there's tensions in the workplace because of your use or misuse of power and what that actually means. It could be a time where you are being awakened to, there's more to you, there's still so much more in you that you want to share with the world in a position of authority, because Pluto is dealing with that. It's about power and authority and gravitas. Is there still something in you that can be unearthed and packaged and cultivated that allows you to shine your light in the world? And by emitting your light, other people are uplifted in the process. Other people can equally see how they can use their power in a very transformative way. But Pluto in the 10th is going to show you where you are feeling unfulfilled, dissatisfied with your world of work. It could also show where there are clashes in the workplace with, your bosses or your colleagues or, employees or suppliers or anyone who populates your world of work. Also, Pluto here is saying it might not be your paid job, but there's a call for you to rise up and use your power, particularly with it being in Aquarius, to think about how, through who you are, can help to transform the collective, the people around you, the world around you, in a way where you're bringing more equity into that position, that public position. Pluto in the 10th house. Pluto in the 11th house is we're entering the world of, dreams, desires, and goals, long term ambitions, and friends, and groups, and associates. Pluto in the 11th house, and the 11th house is being mirrored here because Aquarius is the natural sign of the 11th house, is where challenges will come from within your relationships, your friendships, your friendship groups. The questions that will begin to emerge is, how satisfied or dissatisfied am I with the state of my friendships, relationships? Now, it's not always about pointing the finger at other people, because it takes two people. But be very honest. What's your approach to friendship? Are you the sort of person that, is always being comforted by friendships and having people around you who can really fill your cup and refuel you and regenerate you, so they give you a sense of security? So they're a great asset in your life. But actually, if truth be told, and you really think about how you show up, ask yourself the question, how am I an asset to my friends, my family, my acquaintances, etc.? Pluto in the 11th house, and it's in the house, it's been echoed both ways because of Uranus and because of um, Aquarius. Who are you as a friend? And the very thing that you are seeking in your friendships, do you contribute that to your friendships? Because what we may be seeing is that through this evaluation of friendships, it could be for the other person, it's great, they get X, Y, and Z. But actually, if one were to look at the equation, it's one-sided. And again, Pluto is about showing you where the imbalances are. Where is the imbalance in the relationship? Because the person who benefits least may wake up and just think, well, actually, this relationship, I don't need it. And we both know I don't need it, but it's beneficial to you, but not necessarily beneficial to me. Is that type of dialogue. It is the expression of who am I as a friend and what does that mean? Thinking about the qualities and who are you being befriended by and why? Pluto in the 11th house is going to be really shining the light on that. Conversely, Pluto in the 11th house could bring you into contact with a whole range of fantastic new people who help to expand your life. A question to ask in your current relationships. How do these relationships help me to grow and expand and change? Is it reciprocal? And then, as I said, Pluto could equally bring you very interesting, innovative people, unique and distinctive, but they really help to bring joy and laughter and change in a way. But there's something distinctive about them, or they help you see what's really distinctive about you if you're still laboring under, well, I'm not quite sure of my value. Pluto here is saying you are a really valuable person, but you can't just say you're a valuable person. You've got to demonstrate you're a valuable person to yourself and to the people around you. So it's this wonderful, equitable, free, flowing of energy between you. And then Pluto in the 12th house. Excuse me. Mm. Pluto in the 12th house is the house to come home to. Pluto in the 12th house is the house of the hidden and the house of the unconscious. And when it comes into the 12th house, it's coming into, so we've got Pluto coming into the 12th house, which is which is Neptune's house. And so Pluto here is, who am I behind the fears, the anxieties, the fragilities, but the desire to evolve into a spiritual being, a spiritual person? What's my relationship with compassion, and empathy? And the ability to see and feel what other people are going through. But first and foremost, do I deny those feelings of myself? Am I that disconnected? Because I'm so in the external world of power that I've disconnected from my own sense of humanity. Yeah. Where am I inhumane to myself? And how could I bring more of my humanity that helps me integrate who I am? And through that integration, then enables other people, for you to to bring out the different sides of you as a person. You're not just the thing you do, but how are you able to transcend the identities that have shaped you to date, that have kept you contained and constrained. Pluto in the 12th house is asking for you to bring about new realizations as to your relationship with divinity. Very powerful position. So, what all of them are, because as I said earlier, wherever Pluto is, and if you have a placement in that house, it is shining the light on where you are stale. And you're so stale that you don't even realize it. Yeah, because you're doing the thing you always do. Change is very difficult. People resist change so much. I go back to that mythological story. We have the scorpion and the frog. Why did that scorpion sting the frog? Because it felt like that. It felt like it wanted to. Why not? And so Pluto, wherever it orbits and lands in your chart, is asking you, prodding you, provoking you. Where are you stale? And where do you just do things because you're comfortable doing them? Well, Pluto's here to shake up all of that energy. So that's it. Next Sunday, Pluto goes into Aquarius and will be there for 20 years. And so all I've tried to do here is give you a slither of what Pluto could mean going through the houses. So I'd love to hear your relationship with Pluto. Pluto's come to the end of its reign in Capricorn. And as I indicated earlier, Pluto just went through my second house. So I know what that felt like. And the regrouping of myself, it's very powerful to look back on what that journey was all about and what led me to reinvention, because it's a theme that I practiced, lived, continue to live, and hence why I've grouped my gems and jewels together so that I can be in the world in this incarnation. But for you, what are you excited about actually Pluto going into whichever house it goes into? Are you ready to embrace? And all I've given you is literally just one layer, one insight into how Pluto shows up in each of the houses. There's so much to it. But, are you excited, or are you frightened? Are you nervous? Are you insecure? Are you unsure? Do you actually fear, if I let go of my status quo, because that's what Pluto is coming here to challenge each and every one of us. But if I let go of my status quo, who could I become? Is that a question that frightens you? Or you've got other questions? I'd love to hear. Put your comments in the comment box below. I can see there's a couple of people. Thank you very much. Sorry. JJ Soul, hello. Oh, we have a good morning from New York City. Good afternoon from London. Lovely. Has that come up there? And we have, who have we got here? Time to stop hiding. Very interesting. Aqua Ascendant. Okay, I'll pop that on there. Yeah. With Pluto, when we're conscious, Pluto says stop shrinking. Pluto says stop playing games. Pluto says, are you always going to remain in that infantile way of being because that's all you know, or that's all you choose to cling on to? Or are you ready to move from the scorpion that's always biting and stinging just because it feels like it, which is an indication of, it's these kind of infantile impulses that you may think have served you well, but your life is saying you've outgrown them. So I would love to hear what you think, what you're waiting for, what you're experiencing, what you're hopeful for, and what you might be fearing with Pluto finally ascending into Aquarius. as of January the 20th straight 21st, depending on what part of the world you're in. I'd love to hear your comments. If you've got any ideas or suggestions, put them in the comment box below. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for my channel. And share what's going on here on a Sunday afternoon at 3:30 with me, Bybreen Semmers, at the Smart Years, so that it can aid the life of other baby boomers. As you know, that's my focus, as well as, other generations. But my primary audience are baby boomers. And as you've noticed, for those of you who were or who are long-time supporters, that I have pivoted my channel, particularly over the last year, pivoted my channel. And so therefore I'm creating like a magazine style channel, hence the different rotating topics. And yet over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have concentrated on astrology because of this major aspect. And so astrology will always remain one of the core pillars of my content. And so there will be 1 week that will certainly be allocated to astrology, but I will continue to rotate. So don't think, oh no, she's not doing astrology anymore. It's a magazine style channel that I'm building here about reinvention for fabulous baby boomers. Stay well and have a fantastic week. And I look forward to seeing you and sharing and serving you next week. Take care. Bye bye.